Here we have the double function space, which is a living room and a bedroom. And just lift it up, we lower this down, and it becomes a bed. It's pretty cheap for the space I have. What he told me is that he was going to sell it for around 200,000 euros.
Hello everyone, how are you? And welcome to a new video, or should I say bonjour. What I do is welcome you to Paris, possibly the city we have all heard of. I think that since I was a child, I have heard about Paris, and I really didn't know how to locate it on the map. Today we are in the most visited city in the world. More than 80 million tourists every year, not only foreigners, but even French people from other regions of the country come to visit this incredible city. That of the Mona Lisa, the Louvre. I don't know whether to pronounce it like that, but at the end of the day, it is attracting everyone. And this has been happening for a long time. Artists, businessmen, musicians, investors, everyone has to do with Paris, and that brings with it many issues. More than anything with the issue of housing. Where will people live? What will the conditions be like? Does Paris really have the capacity to accommodate so many people today? That, friends, is exactly what we are about to find out. Hello everyone, how are you? And welcome to a new video. Nice to meet you. If you don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Frank Camallerys, and in order to understand a little bit more what is happening in Paris, that is, this overcrowding that is happening, which comes from many years, more than anything about where people live, what the conditions are like, what the apartments are like, how much space they have, how much they cost, and even how much those tenants are willing to pay for the simple fact of having a home or a place to sleep. For that, I think we will have to move away from the Eiffel Tower a little bit, because I can tell you right now that the prices in this area are through the roof. But anyway, having said that, let's go there. I take this opportunity to tell you that right now Paris has become the headquarters of the Olympic Games, and the logo right there says it. I also want you to see the number of people sitting around who come precisely for that. To be able to take a photo with the Eiffel Tower, possibly the most photographed monument in the whole world. And look, tell me if it's not true that if at some point you've thought about traveling to a new destination or visiting someplace, it has never crossed your mind to visit Paris and come to take a classic photo with the Eiffel Tower. I think that everyone who has been bitten by the travel bug has questioned it at some point, and in my case, I think I've also fallen for it. But of course, I really think that very few times we have asked ourselves how people live in this city. Because yes, many pass by as tourists, but what do Parisians do with their lives?
Hello everyone, I'm FIFA. I'm a Mexican who has been living in France for almost 6 years now, and I've only been living in Paris for a year.
Well, the first question I have for you is, why did you come to France? How did all this decision to come and live here come about? Where did it come from?
I'll tell you everything, but I'll tell you about it in the house. Follow me.
Now, on my way home, this area of Paris is very nice, isn't it?
Yes, we are in the 16th district, which is a district where there are many embassies and where there are many families.
Exactly, where are we? Could you say it's like the fancy area?
Yes, it is the bourgeois area.
This area is very nice, you know? Really? How do you end up living in this area? Recommendation from a friend, or did you find the apartment?
By accident. The acquaintance of a friend. He is an acquaintance of an acquaintance.
I'm just going to tell you that it's my first time in Paris, and I'm delighted. I want to experience more closely the whole issue of what's happening with the housing issue, because I know that everyone wants to come to Paris, both for fashion and for work issues, for absolutely everything. Do you feel the issue of gentrification? Before seeing your apartment, do you feel the issue of gentrification? Have you felt it in the time that you've been living here?
Paris is beautiful, but I'm not going to lie to you. It's quite expensive. I think it is not so much because of foreigners or people from other countries, but people from France themselves who want to get to Paris and who either live on the outskirts or there are too many of us. So many that there is not even room for them.
Does that mean that even an internal gentrification of France itself is happening with Paris?
Yes, I mean, Paris is the capital of everything. Here in Paris, you find absolutely everything, and France has it. It is a bad thing about France that everything is centralized in Paris, and in other cities there is not so much offer. I'm going to continue telling you, but now we have to go into the house. This is the door here. Welcome.
Thank you.
To this small space. This is a 15 square meter space with a bathroom and a small balcony. It was actually an acquaintance of an acquaintance of an acquaintance who had this apartment and didn't want to rent it out. He wanted it for himself to come and visit museums in Paris. But fortunately, I convinced him to rent it out, and voila.
Okay, and the question is it small, big, or average for Paris?
It depends a lot. It's a bit small if you consider it an apartment, and it's quite big if you consider it a studio. Studios in Paris are about 9 square meters for students. They don't have a bathroom. Sometimes they don't have a balcony, and it's just one space.
For example, if they don't have a bathroom, how do people really do it?
They have bathrooms in the hallway, and they share the hallway with all the studios on the same floor. As tourists, you usually come to Paris, so you should enjoy it a lot. Paris is a very beautiful city, and you should not only focus on the tourist attractions, but look for what to do during the time you are going to be in Paris, because there are always specific plans like current festivals or a parade or something like that can change the experience you have as a tourist a little. And for immigrants who come to France, I would tell them not to only think about Paris, because Paris is very beautiful, but there are much more beautiful things. I am in Paris for a while for my studies and for my work, but I know that I am not going to stay here all the time. We enter through here. I created a small entrance, literally, to have a space where I can take off my shoes, because here in France, it is very common to take off your shoes before entering the house so as not to make a mess and not to be vacuuming all the time. Here I leave the things I brought in from the day, and then we go to the kitchen.
And for example, this area here, did you have to furnish it yourself, or did it already come with a microwave, a stove, everything?
No, it is a furnished apartment, meaning everything is included. What we consider to be a furnished apartment is that it has a refrigerator, a kitchen, a bed, and a table and a chair to work in. I had to invent a few things here because we don't have a drainer. So I bought this drainer that goes directly into the dishwasher. That's not included. And over here is the dishwasher. We have 2 cooking plates. It's a pretty adequate space for one person, but if you want to cook for more people, it becomes complicated. I had my brother here last month, for example. And for 2 people, it's already quite tight. The microwave was already right in the space where it is. Here we have a bar that has 2 functions. One is to cook and the other is to eat, because there is no table in here. So I use half the space for cooking and half the space for eating. This is the refrigerator. It's a pretty small space too. We have a mini freezer space, as we say in Mexico, and a normal food space.
Does this make it difficult for you to store food depending on its size?
Not by myself. But when I lived with my brother, 2 people here, yes, there is no way.
Would you say it's literally a one-person apartment?
Completely. And since the storage space is quite small, I have this cart for all my pantry items. I lived in Germany for a while during my studies. I did an Erasmus, which is a European exchange, and I love Germany too. How expensive is Paris? Paris depends a lot on where you live. If you want to go out, for example, in this neighborhood, which is the 16th, where there are a lot of families and there are a lot of older people, it is quite expensive because the offer is tailored to them. If you want to go out in more popular neighborhoods like the Latin Quarter or places where there is more youth movement, it will be a little more expensive in terms of drinks and other things, but cheaper in terms of life in general, like supermarkets. Compared to where I lived before, which is a fairly small city in Paris, the supermarket doesn't change that much because I do my grocery shopping in a big supermarket. If I go to the store across the street that I have here, which is called Fanprix, which is like an OXXO in Mexico, it is quite expensive. Everything is like 50 cents, €1 more expensive than it is in a big supermarket. And many people don't have the chance to go to a big supermarket, so they end up doing their shopping in mini supermarkets. And now we get into the dead space a bit, because I still don't know what to do with this space. I have a small table where I keep mostly selective things, electronics, glasses, etc. This is my only closet space. I have to say that I suffer a lot because I'm a woman and I need a lot of space to have clothes. So I managed to fit all the summer stuff in here, but I have a lot of winter stuff in the basement. Over here we have the double function space, which is a living room and a bedroom. This is not something I do every day. It's quite rare that I have a sofa, except when guests come over. But from day to day, it's a bed that transforms in this way and becomes a living space. I can show you. What we have to do is remove the cushions. Just lift it up and it becomes a bed. On average, to be able to live in Paris, I think it also depends a lot on whether you are in a couple or not. Because with a partner, you can pay less for a bigger space. But I think that with 2,300 euros, you can live well. We are not going to give ourselves the luxury of going out to eat every day, but 3 times a month to eat 2 tourams, a month to eat 3 times a weekend is quite easy. Let's see. Let's go to the bathroom. We have an Italian shower, Italian style. There isn't much here, really. I mean, I have a rather small sink. It's a great privilege to have a sink, because in many studios in Paris, we have the sink and the hand sink in one place. So here we have one for the bathroom and another for the kitchen, completely separate. Often we have a room with just the toilet, the bathroom, and another room with a sink, or there is no sink and you have to wash your hands in the kitchen. And finally, I'm going to show you the balcony, which looks quite small, but is actually a good size. On this balcony, I have a little table to eat outside now that the summer days are starting and it's already getting hot and the sun is coming out and it's very nice. And on this side, I have a sofa to read or take a nap. The minimum wage in France, which is 1,700 euros. For example, I earn a little less than the minimum wage because of my status as a student and worker. I live quite well. For example, I am a fairly thrifty person and I have enough to be able to save, to go on trips, and to go out to eat.
How much would you expect to pay to live in an apartment like this in Paris?
I'll tell you a secret. I'm not paying what I should pay for this apartment because it's known to an acquaintance. So he's let me have it cheaper. But normally you'd pay around 800 euros for this apartment. I'm paying 650. It's quite cheap for the space I have because I had looked at other apartments with bathrooms facing outside, without a balcony and everything, and they cost me 700. And this neighborhood is quite good. Actually, we're on the 16th. It's a neighborhood where a lot of families live, a lot of elderly people live, because it's a neighborhood where there's a lot of money. No, in fact, in this building, my neighbor has 2 balconies. One faces this street, which is the main street, and one faces the interior of the building. So it's quite quiet, and they're both very good sizes. What he told me was that he was going to sell it for around 200,000 euros.
200,000 euros? That's 15 square meters, right?
Yes.
I mean, that seems crazy to me. How do you get to France, and why Paris? How do you leave Mexico and get to Paris?
Well, look, I came to France. This is my 6th year. I came in 2019 in February, and I came as a jeune fille au pair, which is a nanny in a family home. They host you there, feed you, and pay you. And I did that to learn French. The reality of the plan was not to stay in France. I mean, the plan was, I was doing my degree in Mexico City, and the plan was to learn French and come back. But I loved France so much that I said, well, why not go for it, stay here, start my studies again? And that's what I did.
That is what initially became an exchange, later brought you here.
Yes.
Well, since we were able to see the apartment inside, I want to take this opportunity to thank Fiafi for showing it to us.
For all those interested in living in France or French culture or learning French, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. I am here as La FIFA. It is practically like a guide for those who want to come to France for the first time. And there I can share with you my life here in Paris.
Hey, thank you very much for everything. It was a great pleasure, and I'm sure we'll see each other again. I don't know if in Paris or somewhere else in France. Well, thank you, bye.